Do the Easter Island heads have bodies underneath? What is the mystery behind these Moai statues? How and why were they made? The answers to these questions are all in this Travel by Dart episode, as my friend Matt and I will reveal the secret behind the famous stone figures on Easter Island.
The inspiration is the phallus, the phallic figure.
But wait, there is a lot more. My name is Sorin. I throw darts at the world map and travel wherever they land, no matter how far or difficult it is. Besides traveling with me, I invite you to do whatever you love before it's too late and live a life with no regrets. My passion is travel by dart. Rapa Nui is a very historical place. They have over 900 Moai statues here.
The only thing I knew about Easter Island was a social media post that said these Moai statues have bodies underneath them. They're some secretive statues that were put up, kind of like the eighth wonder of the world. No one knows how they got there. And I was somewhat intrigued. I'm here now. I'm seeing these things in real life. They're huge. I have no idea how people did this hundreds of years ago.
While you cannot find many Easter Island documentaries that let the locals tell the actual story, as opposed to just tourists making stuff up, we have to ensure that we are guided by some of the most respectable people in Rapa Nui. And we found Mario Toki and Juan Kanko.
They said before we came, spend as much time here as possible, get to know the locals, get to know the culture, because the doors won't open to you unless you actually do that.
I had goosebumps a few times this week.
Voila! This is it. Second day on the island. We've come a long way, but it's time to go, so...
We're gonna go to the quarry, the Moai quarry, where they actually chiseled and scooped out all the statues over the years.
Yeah, so for those of you who have no idea how they made my statues, today you're gonna find out. So let's go. Having some technical difficulties. There we go. Adios.
We are at the quarry where they make the Moais.
Hundreds of years they've constructed and manufactured the Moai statues that you see in all those wonderful shots in the marketing. But what we're going to try to figure out is how they get from the mountain all the way down to the water. Well, let's go.
Let's check it out.
You guys have to read this?
Well, it's funny because here everybody is a ranger, everybody works everywhere. So the person who's gonna check out our permit today is someone who partied with us a few days ago. Rosa. So Tavi and Rose, who we met in the previous day, now they're actually doing their own job.
Don't mess with Tavi, baby.
We're about to educate ourselves and hopefully educate you on how the Moai statues are being made.
Yeah, so in the background here, there's 300 plus Moai statues. This is the factory where they built it in ancient times. They would use this big tall hill here, which is the side of a crater, and they would use it to roll the statues down into place. So here you got two ways to go. You got the factory way this way, and you got the crater this way.
I think we're gonna go for the factory this way. Okay, there are two most important things here. One, you have to keep on the trail. And two, you cannot touch the statues. This one here is one of our favorite statues on the island. It's probably one of the tallest ones. Every time they were carving a statue, they were giving them a name. So just like Matt and Sorin, they all have a name. This one is Hiavi.
And this is actually the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you can't even see at least half of the statue. It's all underground. And if you take a look at the curvature of the face, it's actually a lot more of a modern looking piece because it was done in the later era. The further back in time you go, the more traditional it looks and the more simple it looks.
Let's see some more.
In this place of the quarry, this is the showroom. People were carving all the upper part, artists, workers.
Cool.
The inspiration is the phallus, the phallic figure. So the ancient Rapa Nui culture was a phallical central culture. That means that the shape of the phallus was very important to represent the power, the virility, and the status of every chieftain. And let's remember that the Moai itself represent the figure and the power of every chieftain. They became the tombstone of their burial places, and the whole family were working to achieve the resources to pay for the carving of the Moai. Everyone will be cropping, fishing, and working and worshipping the figure of this passed away ancestor, which is this Moai. The Moai is the generical name for the figure, but every Moai will be baptized, as you said, with the name of this passed away person.
So this is the first Moai statue ever carved. Its name is Tai Hare Atua, and it's about 800 years old, the locals say.
So first step, they draw the lines, the profile of the Moai on the bare rock, and then they start to, with stone chisels, they start to remark this all around, and they start to go inside the rock. They leave a kind of a keel, a boat keel in the back of the Moai. Then they hollow this keel, they put some logs on this, and then they break the keel, and the Moai.
I want to address something that's a little bit funny, but it's also very interesting.
What's so funny about it?
Oh shit. I asked, what the heck's the word phallic? I never heard that word before. Sorin?
Mario said that the Rapa Nui culture is a phallical or phallic-centered culture. And Matt was very puzzled what phallic is.
And what did he say to us?
Yeah.
You have to read more books, my friend.
He says you gotta read more books.
Yeah, he challenges me on my own English language. It was funny. He basically said when there is a burial, the shape of the Moai is to do with the shape of the man's, the bigger, the stronger. And in the more primitive time, when you don't really have much else other than, well, human nature to go off of, that was a very important figurehead.
So I guess there were like lucky guys and unlucky guys all over the island.
Basically, if you're loaded, locked and loaded back in the day, you get a massive Moai statue and you're glorified.
So, for a quick overview,
These giant Moai statues, they don't have any bodies or torsos hidden underneath. They were created as monuments to honor villagers. Artists would come and trade their skills for shelter, food, and other sustenance.
the Moais were carved out from the rock directly, then popped off with a log and dragged down the side of the hill, finally settling a hole. The statues do not have arms or legs underneath, but rather a long base to ensure the standing up over time. Now, the only Moai statues created on the island are small souvenirs for tourists like us.
It's quite remarkable that these massive statues, 12 meters big, have been chiseled from a rock-faced quarry behind us and brought by hand 800 years ago all the way to the ocean.
They said the statues overall represent the bridge between the earth and the sky.
These Moais, a lot of people don't understand that the Moais act as a tomb, and they plant the body in the ground, they put the Moai on top to seal it, and the Moai statue actually acts as a conduit from heaven to earth.
And some of the statues, you may notice that they have sombreros, which means hats. Those particular statues are representing high authority figures on the island.
And for them was most important the beauty of their art and the size of it, because it started to represent the status.
When the Moais were completed, they had one last task to make sure that the bodies and the spirit could get from earth to heaven, and it was placing the eye on the top of the Moai. And those eyes were made of basaltic rock. They would put coral all around it to fill in the white part of the eye, and then they would finish it off with black obsidian, a special type of hard black rock that was polished, and that was the pupil, the connection that completed the task. Many of the Rapa Nui people today, in the authentic generations that have been passed down, know which statues are from their own families.
just quite cool if you're considering preserving culture and keeping a name for yourself.
We've seen so many animals on the island, and when I asked Mario what's the most dangerous animal here in Rapa Nui, he said, us, the locals. Mario is the man. He knows the history, he knows the town, he knows the island. He has answers to every single question you ask him. He's like, Google, hey Mario, tell me about the legends of the island.
He spoke perfect English. I was like, are you from Chile and you just came here? He's like, no, I'm from Easter Island. Like, this is my home. I have a wife and kids here.
Her name is Deva Roa, which means a long journey.
He's so happy. 12-hour long day. He's not complaining one time.
I think Kanko was the wild card for me because sometimes it was so cold, sometimes it was so warm, sometimes it would be so fun, sometimes it would be so straight-faced. I remember one of the first times I met him, I tried to shake his hand and he looked at my hand and then he kept talking to somebody else. I'm like, look at this guy. But then 20 seconds later he comes, gives me a hug, talks about something else.
He's so cool, man. Like, we ended up filming a music video for him. We're gonna show you the video in a link, I'm sure, somewhere. But the guy's got like the softest voice. He's very humble. His character is very pure, but he also has that little hint of crazy, like Rapa Nui in him. You know, don't mess with him.
Just like they all do. Along with Mario and Kanko, we continue our Easter Island adventure with something you need to see in the next episode: trying authentic Rapa Nui dances and diving to the bottom of the ocean. To follow my adventures around the world, you can click the subscribe button or, well, that logo on the screen. Oh, and by the way, to be notified when a new episode comes out, click also the bell icon. Last but not least, don't be shy to leave a comment below and let me know what you think.